Yes. Good morning, everyone. Yesterday we left off learning about matzah, and we said that there's two basic types of matzah. One type of matzah was that the Jews had to eat in Egypt. There was a commandment they have to eat this matzah before they left Egypt. And the second matzah was matzah that the Jews did not have to eat, but they had no choice because when God revealed himself in Egypt at midnight, so after that, there could be no egotism. It was possible, and the whole thing of chametz, which is bread that rises up, that's the whole thing of egotism. What is it? What's egotism? Egotism is falseness. False egotism, is a lie. Here we're talking about egotism means that you think more about yourself than you think about the Creator. That's what egotism is. You yourself is more real than God is, and that's a lie because God is more real than we are. God is creating us. So egotism is not feeling that God is creating us or feeling it, but feeling yourself more. And that's the idea of chametz. And when God revealed himself at midnight, so it was such a revelation of the truth that people couldn't think about themselves, or they could think about God. So even it says that reflected itself even in the matzah, even the bread, in the matzah. The matzah itself could not rise. So it says. So that's why it says that God, that who took us out of Egypt. It says in the Haggadah of Passover, we did not leave not by means of a malach or a saraf, an angel or a higher type of an angel, and not by means of a shliach, some sort of a messenger of God, but God himself, the essence of God. This is why, because any other revelation couldn't come down so low. So here we have another one of the novelties of Judaism, that only the highest aspect of God can come down into this physical world. And the reason is, it gets weirder, more and more weird as we go along. what all the other religions say? They say you're going to go to heaven, which that's sort of like God's abode is heaven. Like God's thing is to be spiritual, right? To be spiritual in the spiritual worlds, and God is spiritual. So that's where God is supposed to be. In this physical world, this is a terrible place, and it's a big lie, and it's awful. And then our goal is to leave it. Well, not according to Judaism. According to Judaism, this world is a terrible place, and it's a lie. And our job is to transform this terrible place into a good place, and to transform the lie into truth. Because the world is created by God exactly for that reason. And the beginning of this was in Egypt, when God came down revealed himself in the physical world, and he personally took the Jews out. It's like God is like a person. He personally took the Jews out of Egypt. Of course, God is not a person. So how did he take the Jews out? So this makes no sense, but that's the essence of what Judaism is. That the Creator, the essence of the Creator should be revealed in the creation. And says the Rebbe here, going out of Egypt showed us that only the essence of the Creator, only the essence of God is able to make this change, and to change the bad of this world, and he does it through the Jews. That's what it means, and the whole thing depends on Moses. Okay, so it says, why is it that God could not take the Jews out? He said, not a malach, an angel, for instance, cannot come down so low, or a messenger, or any of these other aspects of God cannot come down so low as to transform this world. Now, when the Jews left Egypt, they did not transform the world. It says that they let the world know that there is such a God. They let the world know that the Creator of the universe chooses good and bad, that he has such a thing as good and bad, and he chooses good and bad, and it makes no sense, but that's the way things are. That's the way things are. That God chose the Jews, and the Jews are supposed to show the world what good is in order to transform the world. Now, when the Jews left Egypt, they did not transform the world. They destroyed their enemies. That is not the goal of Judaism, to destroy our enemies. It is not the goal of the Jews to destroy anything. The goal of the Jews is to restore godliness in the world like it was before Adam ate from the tree, and even better, that there shouldn't be any death in the world. Not only that, there shouldn't be any death, but all of the death and the bad there was becomes transformed. Adam didn't have anything to transform. Okay, so now we go. So it says, therefore, okay, look, and therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. Therefore, they drew down through Moses by means of the sin of the tree of the sin of the golden calf, which was there to fix up the sin of the eating of the tree. V'hine sham, there it says v'yamaher Moshe v'yikod arza v'yishtachu. So when the Jewish people they had a chance, they could have fixed up the tree of the knowledge, they could have ended death in the world, they could have perfected the world, but they didn't. Moses, in order to fix up this terrible sin of the golden calf, it says v'yamaher Moshe v'yikod arzo v'yishtachu. Then Moses hurried up and he bowed down. Why? In order to evoke, to reveal what's called here the 13 attributes of God's mercy. That they can come down and fix up the world. It says like a Baal Tshuva, to return, to transform sins into merits. How do you transform sins into merits? Because the whole thing of revelation of God in the world depends on us. us devoting ourselves totally to the Creator. Like that's how this class started off, to thinking about God more than we think about ourselves. But the natural thing is to think about yourself. And if you think about yourself, you get rewards for it, right? People go and become thieves and all these other terrible sins, because it feels good to steal from people. It feels good to do sins, right? These mafia guys or whatever that kill people, they enjoy it. They enjoy it. The things that are forbidden in the Torah provide pleasure to some people. Not everybody likes that, but there's something in the Torah, some sort of a sin which appeals to everybody. You don't like that sin, pick this sin. And it means that you have to go against yourself. You have to go against what makes you feel good, what gives you security. You have to go against it. You have to transform yourself. That's called a Baal Tshuva, to return to your true essence. In order to do that, you have to call from a high, very high place, an essence of your soul, which gives you power to refrain from doing bad, because bad feels good. To refrain from doing that, it comes from a very high place. That's what Moses aroused in the Jewish people, like a Baal Tshuva. Because a person sins and he fixes himself up, it cannot be fixed except only by drawing down from a very high place, the essence of your soul, from a place where darkness is like light. In other words, a person says, okay, I did sins, and that was me. I did the sins, and I want to stop doing the sins, but I like doing the sins. I enjoy it. So I'll just become religious, and I'll just keep my mind off of the sins. That's good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing, just to stop doing the sins. But you didn't really transform it. The next time that opportunity comes along, right, what are you going to do? You've locked yourself up in a monastery, in a yeshiva, in some place, so that you're not coming in contact with the world at all. So you're got no temptations. So that's good. That's good. But that's not exactly the goal. The goal is supposed to be to transform the world. How are you going to do that? So it's not to put yourself into temptation's way, not to, to to break into a bank and not steal anything. Right? That's not the goal. The goal is to start doing good. Start doing good. Be in a certain position where you could break into a bank and you don't even want to do it. You don't even think about it. As soon as the thought comes into your mind, you just push it away before you would embrace that thought. If you were a thief. So it says, what power, what type of good is there in your soul that can overcome this identity that I am a thief and I enjoy being a thief. Right? I'm a liar and I enjoy being a liar. Right? There's people that they just enjoy that. It's just natural to them. Right? It's natural. So you have to find a deeper nature in yourself, who you really are. And that's called who I really am. You return to who your true self is. Therefore, therefore, the Jewish people, because of their sin, and because they returned, they said, we regret doing it. They draw down him, they were the ones that encouraged Moshe, the Cheda Egel, when they did the sin, to fix up the sin. Moses prayed to God, and he bowed down and he prayed to God, please inspire these Jews and arouse inside of them who they really are. Forgive all of the Jews. The reason that they bowed down to the golden calf was because of temporary insanity. They forgot who they are. That there shouldn't be any nurture to foreign powers, to more selfishness. Now, whatever the Jews do, those people who have this thing that the Jews are trying to take over the world and the Jews control everything, and they've got a good point. The fact is, they have a really good point, because the fact is that the world is, yes, in the hands of the Jews. That's the fact. Not like what everybody says, we're trying to control the money and we're trying to control the whatever is the media, and we're trying to do this. That's not what it means. That's not what it means. The Jews control the world by means of their actions. If the Jews act properly like God wants, then the world becomes a good world, and there's no more murder and no more. But if the Jews don't do what God wants, then we got what we have over here. Everybody blames the Jews, and no one can figure out why. So one of the answers is the fact that the plight, the how do you say the how do you say this situation in the world, is a better word for it, depends on the Jews. It depends on the Jews. When the Jews act properly, then everything is proper. Oh, by the way, we forgot to give charity. Let's give charity. Here we go. Charity saves from death. Charity saves from all bad things. It brings all good things. It brings the Geula. It brings Moshiach now. Okay. So Moses prayed to God and said, God, please forgive the Jewish people. They just forgot who they are. They became temporarily insane. The temptations were too great. Their immune system was too low because they thought that Moses wasn't there. And God promised Moshe, Gam et hadavar hazeh asher dibarta, that which you said, I will do. If God would not have promised, God would have rested his presence on evil as well, like Bilam. Even though that Bilam was a disgusting, debauched, terrible person. He was destructive, and he was licentious, and he was every bad thing you could possibly imagine. But God gave him the power of prophecy. Why did God give him the power of prophecy? Like Haman. How did God give Haman such great power? Haman maybe is not such a good example, but Bilam had prophecy. How did he get such power of prophecy? How did he get it? He said he got it because God, in his essence, doesn't make any difference between good and bad. As soon as the Jews do bad, so they make bad available to everyone. They open the doors to everyone to get inspiration from God, even Bilam. Why? Because God can give blessings to Bilam. It says Bilam used to have relations with his donkey, and he used to defile himself, and then he would get prophecy. How could he do things like that? And it says, why? Because God is Kol Yachal. God can do whatever he wants to. Because like darkness is like light. And also darkness is the same thing as light by God. Evil and bad by God, by the essence of God, doesn't make any difference. Misham, from there, was also the nurture of Paro. Paro is the language of Orif, the back of the neck. Orif, the same lesson, back of the neck. It's like the backside of God, Mishum Gavoa. Because God is so high, so to speak, that it doesn't make any. Who creates Paro? Who creates these evil? God does. And therefore, it says that the Jews, they were servants to Paro in Egypt. We were slaves. How did they get out of Egypt? How did they get out? There had to be a tremendously high revelation of godliness, which comes from the essence of God. Even from a place where, even though it makes no difference to God whether there's good or bad, because God is creating the whole thing. But nevertheless, from there, he chooses the Jews. He chooses good. Doesn't make any sense. Evil will destroy the world. Okay, so what? Right? So what? So you destroy the world. It's like, Michelangelo tearing up a picture of it. So he tears it up. So what? He can do what he wants. Right? God creates the world. Let evil win. Why not? So it says the whole idea of the Jews going out of Egypt is to show that even though that God is so high, it makes absolutely no difference to God whether good wins or bad wins. There's no good or bad. God invents what good and bad is. God invents good. But there's a higher aspect of God, and that's God himself. That's not by means of a messenger or an angel. The essence of God, which just like it makes no sense why there's good and bad, but God in his essence chooses good. That's what was revealed in Egypt. When the Jews left Egypt, because of this, that the Jews ate matzah. When the Jews ate matzah before they left, and they ate the Pesach offering also, but matzah we have now also. Matzah, it did something to the essence of God. First of all, we see that it made a difference between God, even though that evil and good are the same thing by God, and the Egyptians ruled over the Jews. But we see when God started giving commandments to the Jews, that it seems that he was giving advice to the Jews how to get out of it. How to get out of it. It's like the chief warden of the prison slipping a key to one of the prisoners. God that creates everything, it doesn't make any difference to him one way or another, but nevertheless, he slipped the key to the Jewish people, and that key is matzah. When the Jews ate matzah, it somehow or other aroused the essence of God. This draws down what's called mochin da'aba. This is the awareness of God, which comes from this aspect of chachma. It's like the essence of the Torah. The Jews aroused this aspect of God's what's called mochin of chachma, of God's above understanding. They aroused it shalamata be'etrutu delatata, to reveal this below through their arousal from below. Etruta delatata. Here's a very, very important thing in Judaism. That, excuse me, that God personally creates this evil, terrible world, and he wants it to be changed, but we have to do it. So to speak, it's a thing that God can't do on his own. We have to do it. That's the way God set it up. He set up rules for himself that when we do what God wants, that's called an arousal from below. This is an abbreviation from the Zohar. At the root, an arousal from below, shehi, which is a siyat, a mitzvah, when you do the commandments, or abba, then this essence light of God. That's what it means, not by means of an angel, not by means of a higher angel, not by means of a messenger, not by this is drawn down to me. And opinions, that's what we say in the in the Haggadah of Pesach. Ba'avur zeh asali, the revelation of God came to the Jewish people in an inside way. To the inside way, and it was not drawn to the external forces. So after going out after going out of Egypt, God said that there will not be evil, there will not be success like Paro got given to the non-Jews again. Maybe temporarily, a little bit. But they didn't rule over the Jews. We see that afterwards, the Jews were never taken. Oh, excuse me. So we see then after that the Jews were never ruled over totally by the non-Jews. There was, for instance, there was the destruction of the first temple. The Jews went into Babylon, but they knew that they were Jews and they were free to serve God. They were free to do the commandments in Babylon when they got out. And also the same thing now. So there was never exactly given power to the non-Jews like it was given to Paro. That's what it means, leave a low. That's what it means. We say that the smart son asks a question. He said, no, the evil son. And there's the four sons. The evil son asked a question. And he said, what is all this work that you're doing here, all these commandments? And it says that God gave it. He says, because of this, the matzah, God did to me and not to Egypt. If the evil son was there in Egypt, he would not have been taken out of Egypt. Because the Jews, the actions of the Jews, that's why God took them out of Egypt. Which, by the way, the Lubavitcher Rebbe says a little bit differently now. He said that when this is before the Torah was given. Before the Torah was given, so therefore it says the evil son wouldn't have gotten out of Egypt. So, but after the Torah was given, then even the evil people will go out. Even the evil Jews will transform. That's what it says. In the beginning, the Jewish people were servants to Paro. The Paro, he was getting his power from God. What this is, the light of the Chachma of God. It says from the backside, but nevertheless, that's what it means. It says, I took you out of Egypt. God said, Lo ayidei sorov, lo ayidei malach, lo ayidei shliach, not out of an angel, a different type of an angel, not that I took you out, I and no one else, lo acher. What does it mean, me and no one else? What does it mean, no one else? There is someone else other than God? I took you out and no one else. Okay, he already said, not by means of an angel. Not, what does it mean, me and no one else? Hainu al yedei mitzvah, by means of the mitzvah, by mitzvah, nimshach is drawn to me. When the Jewish people did the commandment of eating the Pesach offering and eating the matzah, and also moror, but then it was also a commandment from the Torah to eat moror. Moror is bitter herbs. Nimsa, so it comes out that the matzah caused the Jewish people to go out of Egypt. Ki b'chipazon, and they had to leave quickly out of Egypt. Why quickly? They said there's different ways of looking at quickly. One way is they had to leave quickly because they had such a desire to do bad and to stay into Egypt that they had to be pushed out. But another one is that they had such power. They had, all of a sudden, God gave them such a push that it pushed them out quickly. Kamshachat or Abba, the drawing down of this light of Abba, the light of the essence of God, the Chachma, called the level of Chachma. So it ends up that the matzah that they ate on the first night, even though it was the lowest aspect of matzah and they had to guard it, but nevertheless, it drew down the highest revelation of God. Because the Jewish people were in the lowest state, and nevertheless, they did what God wanted, unquestioningly. And you have to remember, these are Jews that essentially they didn't really want to leave Egypt. They didn't really want to leave Egypt. I mean, they would have liked the conditions to be improved a little bit. It would be easier for them to get, make bricks or something like that. But basically, they kept saying to Moses, let's go back to Egypt. Let's go back. And nevertheless, these Jews unquestioningly left Egypt and went into the desert without any food. So they had enough matzah to last them for a day or something. They unquestioningly left in Egypt and they went into the desert. They had no chance to survive in the desert. So it says that the Jewish people decided to do what God wanted, and they ate matzah. As this drew down, this is so unusual, it drew down from God's essence. It aroused God's essence. Now, of course, you can ask a question, can we arouse God? What are you talking about? How can we arouse God? Well, God did give the commandments, and the commandments are God's will, so God does have a will. We see that God was displeased by the generation of the flood, and he was, yes, pleased by, it says, the sacrifices of Noah when Noah left the ark. God, so we see that God has the system of of good and bad, of reacting positively and the opposite. So when the Jews decided to do what God wants, and they ate matzah, and matzah itself comes from this tremendously high level of pure godliness, which is explained other places. So on matzah, that caused going out of Egypt. That was the first night, this tremendous revelation. But all the other nights, the other 7 days of Passover, this was after they left Egypt. Then they had to eat the 7 days of matzah. That's for all the generations. That's for us. Because after the Jews got out of Egypt and the bad was destroyed, then we didn't need this, but they but it was automatic. Automatically, there could not be any bad in the world because of the revelation of God. Oh, that's what we said. Here we go. Let's go ahead to this. Where is the end of this? Here, I found it yesterday. Okay. But that's what it means. The native Passover, at the Passover Seder, we say, because of this, God took me out of Egypt. We point to the matzah. When we say we point no of our, we don't say because of this, only when there is matzah and moror in front of us, by means of the, the moror. What's more is bitterness, because they were bitter because they were far from God. In other words, they did tshuva. Because of this, they aroused the 13 attributes of mercy, and that took them out of Egypt. The Torah, and of course, the whole purpose of going out of the Torah was, going out of Egypt was to receive the Torah. The whole idea of going out of Egypt was not that the people should be free and that they shouldn't be slaves anymore. That was just a means. The Jewish people got out of Egypt so they should be slaves. They should be servants, but servants to God. It says, Avadayim. Says God took the Jews out of Egypt to serve God on Mount Sinai. That's what God said to Moses at the burning bush. The Jews left Egypt to be free to serve God, to stop serving Paro, and to serve God. That's the essence of the Jewish soul, is to serve God to this very day. That's what the Torah is called, like the how do you say, the drippings of God's essence wisdom. But in the future, when Moshiach comes, then there's going to be a revelation of the inside of the Torah, that the inside of this wisdom of God, which is above, that's what it means. Barabot in Midrash Rabbah, when it says that in the future, the Jewish people will say, Zeh Keli, that says, Hine Elokeinu Zeh, Kivinu Lo, Zeh Elokeinu. It says, Hine Elokeinu Zeh Kivinu Lo. This is God, we waited for him. Zeh Havaya, it's in the prophecy where of Isaiah, I think. This is God. It says twice, Zeh. It says, Hine, behold, this is God, and this is God, etc. First, our God, and also the essence of it. By means of, that's revelation 2 times, the essence of godliness. Like the Jews, when they left Egypt, there was one time revealed godliness, and in the future, there's going to be even a bigger revelation of godliness, a bigger revelation of the essence of God. But all of this revelation, just like going out of Egypt, dependent on the Jews eating matzah, also the revelation of godliness, of pure truth in the world, will be revealed by means of our eating matzah now. All these thousands of years, 3,000 years since we got out of Egypt, which is 3,338 some years ago, we've been going out of Egypt every day since then, every year since then, every moment since then. It says, but the revelation is going to be in the future, just like going out of Egypt, dependent on this tremendous revelation of godliness, and the revelation of godliness dependent on the Jewish people eating the matzah. Also, the tremendous the future redemption by means of Mashiach depends on a revelation of godliness. And this revelation of godliness also depends on our eating the matzah, namely doing the commandments. Namely, matzah and moror. When we left Egypt, we were bitter because we were far from God. In the future, we won't need bitterness anymore. In the future, we'll be only doing good. More and more and more good. God is infinite, and God is creating us. And so we can do more and more good. The only now, in the time of exile, we're doing the commandments. Sha'az then shayach b'bechinas bechira. Now we have to make the choice. We have to choose to do good. Like it says, see, I have put in front of you good, life and good, and death and bad, and you should choose good. So nowadays we have to have matzah, which is doing good, and moror, which is bitterness and turning from bad. It says in the Pri-Eitz Chaim, a book, the wisdom of the Arizal, it says moror is the numerical value of death. Moror, right? Resh, mem, and vav are the same in death and in moror, and two reshes. Resh is 200, this is 200, and tough is 400. So it's the same letters. It's the same numerical value. Moror is death. Ratzil Amar means to say, Ki Agashmi is the physical world is called death and bad. It will be kala v'nifsad. It goes away and it destroys. It gets destroyed. But spirituality is life and good. So therefore, tzarech liot, there has to be bechinas, this level of wow, moror. Nowadays, there has to be more. We have to be bitter about how far away we are from God. Because we are drawn naturally after the physical world, right? We think about ourselves. But so therefore, we have to choose, we have to fight and make the proper choice. We have to defy our own urges to be selfish and to choose good and life. This is only relevant now, but in the future, there's the Mashiach. So now we have to have matzah and moror. Moror means turning from bad, and matzah means doing good. But in the future, it says, all the death will be swallowed up forever. The physical world will not conceal God anymore. We'll see that the physical world is an amazing, miraculous gift from God. V'zeo, that's what it means. Hashem called Dima says that God will wipe away all tears. And nowadays the world is filled with misery and disappointment, suffering, death, God forbid for suffering also. And those that remain alive, it's hard for them to appreciate life because they're crying for those people who passed away. But in the future, there won't be such a thing. There won't be such a thing. Dim'ah, the word dim'ah is the numerical value of 220. What that corresponds to the 220 different permeations of the word Elohim. That from there is drawn down all the concealment of the world. But in the future, it says, it says, Hashem li lelokim. In the future, it will be, like it says, God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, will be for me the Elokim. That's what it says. This is God, I waited for him. This is God, we will rejoice in his coming. 2 times revelation of God. The first time revelation of God was when we left Egypt, and the second will be when Mashiach comes any second now. It's supposed to happen. It says something like it says in the future, God will take the sun out of its sheath. If so, then when Mashiach comes, it will be relevant. In Shayach, you won't have to have moror anymore. There won't have to be bitterness. That moror is only on the concealment and death. bitterness is only because of that. But then in the future, because of Mashiach, and this is what we've been working for and working on since we left Egypt back then. That's why it's called the days of leaving Egypt. He asked, because when Mashiach comes, eventually it'll be Bala Amavas, there will be swallowed up death anymore. There won't be any physical death, there won't be any spiritual death. Became this matzah, and also matzah, that now we have to watch out from the chametz. That's the matzah we ate before midnight. It's only relevant now, but in the future it says it'll be like, Lois speak, it'll be like the matzah that's after midnight, that it's impossible for it to be raising up. We'll just see pure truth in everything. And matzah won't be matzah and flour and air. And all you eat is the matzah and the flour and water. That's all you eat. What do you have to have the air there for? Appearances. It looks more. It says in the future there won't be any chometz. So it won't be the yesh gashmi, the physical world. Kolel will be. It won't conceal God anymore because it'll be surrendered. The physical world will be, so to speak, transparent. Oh, because the chametz won't be able to rise up anymore. The physical world won't encourage us to be separate from God anymore. Like it says in the Korban Toda, like in the Thanksgiving offering, it says then they brought 10 loaves of chametz. There's a law in the Holy Temple that you could not bring chametz into the Holy Temple. You couldn't bring any bread that rose up. Right? What is chametz? Chametz is water and flour, and just left alone. You just leave it alone for a few minutes, and it raises up. That's chametz. It's forbidden on Passover. Worst sin, one of the worst sins in Judaism, to eat chametz on Passover. And it's the same exact thing as matzah. It just rose up a little bit. It just is. It seems to be something that it really isn't. Chametz, its own. How do you say? Extension hides its true identity. Right? You don't see what it really is. It's just flour and water. You look and see big. You don't see flour and water. All you see is the air takes up the most part of it. The same thing as the world. We don't see the godliness in the world because the world it's expanded, it's bloated. So therefore, we don't have to watch the matzah in the future. When Mashiach comes, we won't have to beware that it will come to be chametz. But essentially, chametz is not bad. We can transform it. When was it transformed? You couldn't bring chametz into the Holy Temple only 2 times, 2 offerings. One of was the Thanksgiving offering. That means total surrender to God. You're thankful to God that God does everything. Then you can bring chametz. And also in the offering of the offering of Shavuot, the holiday celebrating God giving the Torah, then they brought 2 loaves of chametz into the Holy Temple. It says all the sacrifices, they come from matzah, except for the chametz, which is in the Thanksgiving offering, and the 2 loaves of bread, which come from chametz on Shavuot. If so, this hints that it's possible that in the future, la'atid lavo, in the future, when after Mashiach comes and returns all the Jews to Torah and the commandments, then because there's going to be such a tremendous revelation of God, then even chametz will be redeemed. Chametz will be good, like it was, like it says, that when God gave the 10 commandments, then the 2 loaves of bread, which come from chametz, could be brought into the Holy Temple. Says that's why we say now at the night of Passover, only when there's matzah and moror, which is today to do them now, doing the commandments and turning from there's 248 positive commandments, that's represented by the matzah, and the 365 prohibitions, that's represented by the moror. Only moror, by means of that, only then can we draw down this revelation. So the whole depends on us, on the Jewish people. The whole fate of the world depends on us, namely revealing the light, which is called Soviv Kol Omer. Before we called it Chachma, Soviv Kol Omer. As we will talk about more tomorrow. If so, we've shown that matzah, especially, and all of the commandments in general, they cause God to react to what we do. And by eating matzah, as that draws a tremendous revelation of God, even greater than what it was when the Jews left Egypt. When the Jews left Egypt, there was a tremendous revelation of God's essence, took them out of Egypt, but it destroyed Egypt. The future revelation will not destroy Egypt. It will make chametz permissible. We won't have to have bitterness anymore. The non-Jews will realize that it's better to have a little bit of godliness than have a lot of money or power or success or whatever, what people. That's what they reveal, and that all comes from the Jewish people eating matzah when they left Egypt, and also us eating matzah next week on Wednesday night, and also by you on the Thursday night. Okay, let us now go on. Tomorrow we'll continue this, God willing. Now let us do the Dvar Malchut.